Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now then, it's been about 4 weeks since I collected the Kia Niro Plug-in Hybrid, my latest Hendy Group long-termer, and I've done over 1,000 miles now, so I thought it was about time that I gave you a bit of a run around the car in terms of spec, a little bit more than I did in the collection video, but also have a chat about how I've got on in the first 1,000 miles of running that car. I've found it very interesting, and I need to say straight off the bat, it is very dirty. I've done lots of miles this week. The roads around here are filthy. It's been raining this morning, and we're going away this afternoon, and I just don't have the time to wash it. Sorry. Now, I mentioned when I collected the car behind me that was the first time I'd ever spec'd a brand new car and collected it with delivery miles. Before then, I've always bought used cars. And if you're buying a used car, it's really important to know the history of the car. Has it had any damage? Has it been stolen? And that is where today's video sponsor comes in, Car Vertical. They are an online checker where you can type in the registration number or VIN number of any car you're thinking about buying, and you get a detailed report telling you everything you need to know about the car. And I know this is important because many years ago I bought a Honda S2000, ran it for 4 years, and then when I went to trade it in, found out that it was actually a Cat D write-off, and I didn't know that when I actually bought the car. Not good. So I thought it would be interesting to have a look at the Car Vertical report for Charlie Clubman, because I know that car was written off. And this is an example of the report. So you can see here I've got information about mileage. So the odometer readings look good. You can have a look at whether there are any outstanding financials on the car. And then there's damage reports as well. And Car Vertical bring information from a whole bunch of partners like the DVLA. So their reports are really detailed and also very trustworthy. So if we go down here, interesting to see the car's now on 48,000 miles. So the new owner is clearly putting in the mileage, and there are 4 mileage records found. So that helps you to see if a car's been clocked or not. Financial and legal status, that looks all good. But here we go, damage. Beware, this vehicle was damaged. This vehicle was marked as an insurance write-off. I know that. Now, what's really cool about the damage reports is that you can, with some cars, you might well see that there are photographs, details of what the damage is. This is a repairable, non-structural damage. And then if you keep coming down here, you can see if the vehicle's ever been located in any natural disasters. Very useful if you're Tavarish buying a P1. And then down here, you've also got information which I really like, the latest record. So we can see that the car was manufactured in 2019, registered in September 2019, and then the ownership was changed in 2020. That was when I bought the car. I changed the license plate to my private plate, you can see there. Damage was detected in March 2022, and then I changed the plate back when I gave the car back to the insurance company, and then since then it's had 2 MOTs and also another change of ownership. So there you go. Now, if you want to make use of Car Vertical, in the link of this video, in a pinned comment, there will be a link. If you go there and use the discount code Petrol Ped, you will get 20% off Car Vertical. So when you're buying a new car, you can do that with peace of mind, knowing that it's not been damaged or written off or have outstanding finance. Anyway, now back to the report on my Kia Niro. I think I mentioned at collection, the Niro is a car I know really well. Back to the previous shape one, I drove an electric one of those all the way to Hamburg when I was filming with Vintage Voltage. But I went to the press drives of the new Niro and drove the hybrid and plug-in hybrid version there. And then last year I did a film with Philippa Forrester where she was in the electric Niro and I was in a plug-in hybrid Sportage, because at that time Kia had kind of stopped making the plug-in hybrid for a while just to deal with customer orders. So it is a car I know well. I guess first off the bat, this isn't a performance car. It's not for me an aspirational car, but what it is a car that does its job really well. In my job, I do lots of miles. I need to get there and back and have as little fatigue in me as possible, and that's exactly where this car comes in. But I also think it's a good looking car. I really like the colour. As I said, I was able to choose the colour, and I do like the front end light signature, these daytime running lights that are there. When you turn the car on and walk up to the car, it does look really cool. I like the wheels. So styling wise, I'm a big fan, and I think that's quite important, isn't it? When you're running a car and you're walking to and from it in a car park, or you come out the house in the morning and you see it there, it needs to look like a car you want to get in and drive, and for me, the Niro certainly does that. First thing I want to talk about is that. So it has a key, obviously, but when you approach the car, it unlocks automatically. However, the door mirrors come out, but the door isn't actually unlocked. There's a little thing to put your thumb on, and you can unlock it that way. That's just a little thing. So sometimes it kind of gets itself in a bit of a tiz. It doesn't know whether it's locked or unlocked. The rear doors sometimes aren't open when the front doors are, so you kind of end up reaching for the key anyway. The other thing is, and I think it's just this is the only car we've currently got in the household that runs on electric, so you can park up and it will be running on the electric motor when it's doing its hybrid thing. And you kind of forget that the car's on, and you get out the car and forget to push the start-stop button to turn the car off. And then you walk away and try and lock the car, and it won't lock because it's still on. And I've done that countless times. So it's almost like a positive thing in your head now. Whenever I start, get to a point and I park the car up and I put it in park, you have to kind of remind yourself to turn the car off. Otherwise, you can get out of it really easily with the car still on, and then it won't lock, which is just a pain. Anyway, first world problems and all that. Now then, next up is practicality, but please ignore the state of the rear tailgate. If they didn't come on, you'd complain. So in terms of the two pups, they fit in the boot, absolutely no problem, don't you? It is a decent sized boot. I haven't as yet put my bike in it. I will be doing that shortly. What you doing getting out there? You haven't finished filming yet. Come back here. Come back here. Yeah. Ready? Oh, you're still on camera. Yeah, you're meant to like be, being good and sitting there like your sister. Yeah. So plenty of room for the dogs. I put a towel down, and then the seats drop, and it is a really practical space in the back. The main thing I've used the boot for so far is just carrying filming kit and luggage when I've been going to the airport and so on. So very good size boot for the size of car. In terms of rear passenger room, I haven't actually sat in the back yet, so probably we should do that. Now you can get down. Go on. Go. This one has to be lifted down. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Right, see if we can get in the back. I am literally the first person to ever sit in the back of this. And happy to report there's loads of space really for the size of car. This seat's all the way back for me as a driver. So yeah, it's nice. All that's been in the back so far is I think the dogs have been in here a couple of times and some luggage, but just in terms of using it as a practical car, big thumbs up. Let's have a jump in the front. A few things in the front I'd like done differently. Only a few. So first up, I'm happy to report that for long journeys, this is a nice place to be. This is the level 4 trim spec, so you get all of the toys and all of the nice materials. And the seat's comfortable and the driving position's comfortable, so that's all good. The one grumble I have, for a level 4 car, I don't really expect to have to do this. I'd prefer wireless CarPlay or wireless Android Auto, and at least if you've got wireless, you have the option to then stick a cable and connect the phone via a cable if you don't want things to get overheated. The problem now is, if I just get my phone out, the main challenge is a logistics problem. So if I then put the connection on it, the phone, now I've got an iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I know is a big phone, but the mat where you put the phone in is not big enough for a phone with a charging jack sticking out the back. So you end up you either put it on there, it never quite sits right. If you put it like that and you move around a corner too quickly, it will flop around and move, which does my head in. So you end up putting it down here. And this is actually a very usable bin when you're driving. You've got two places where you can put drinks, but it's just a nice, easy place to put stuff while you're moving around. So the phone ends up being in there. You have a cable. So I just think design-wise, that could be a little bit better. The rotational selector for the gears, I have no problem with that at all. And you've got some nice buttons just here for things like heated and vented seats. I've got heated steering wheel, and then I've got a couple of controls there to change the drive modes from EV, hybrid, or automatic. Lots of piano black in here. It just attracts fingerprints and dust, but that's a well-known thing. And then the last thing before we kind of head off and do some driving, you've got comfort entry, which is quite nice, and the screens, the main screens, are really nice, and I think they sit in the dashboard really well. I like this detailing on the dash. It's not a big incongruous iPad stuck there. It sits nicely. You've got this sweep. There's two screens actually. There's the screen in front with your instrument cluster, and then there's the main infotainment system just there. And then I really like this menu here, which has a dual function. It can be used for your climate control, which is what it's been set on all the time pretty much, and then you can also change it to have shortcuts to go into the infotainment system. So actually the usability of everything is really good. I haven't as yet used the native navigation. The journeys I've been doing, I've just happened to use CarPlay and the navigation I use on there. So I probably should have a go at the navigation for the next report. But anyway, let's jump back to earlier on in the week. I had to go up to Newbury and I took this with me, and let's see how I've been getting on with the driving impressions of the car. But from a styling and practicality and comfort point of view, it's been very, very impressive for the first 1,000 miles, that's for sure. All right, a couple of things I need to do. First of all, I need to hit the start button. Then that goes into vehicle settings, speed limit information. That turns the speed bong off, home screen, back to CarPlay. That is a little bit tiresome. And I also need to start the driving part of this review with a bit of a confession. This is a plug-in hybrid, and although I've just gone through 1,000 miles, I haven't actually yet plugged it in. And the main reason for that is we're still working on the garage at home, and although my car charge point, my Zappi, is installed and commissioned and working again, just getting in and out of the garage with all the work that's been done just hasn't been possible. So I haven't actually plugged it in, and I know that that will have a hugely detrimental effect on my long-term trip information. But it also has a detrimental effect on how often you're able to drive in pure EV. So I'm currently running this car in pure EV. However, I've only got 1 mile of range left, and then it will fire up the internal combustion engine. So if you want to do lots of EV running, you really do need to be plugging it in. The one thing I would say is I don't think this car has enough all EV range, certainly for my liking anyway. You'll get 30 or so miles out of a full battery on pure EV running. There you go. I've now run out. I'm back to running as a hybrid. And if you're doing lots of short journeys, a short commute of, I don't know, 5 or 10 miles, something along those lines, and you can plug it in every night, then you're going to be doing that on the cheapest fuel source, which is, especially if you've got an overnight cheap electric tariff at home, that's how you're going to keep the cost of your motoring down, by using EV as much as you can. I haven't been doing that, so what that means is I'm running on the internal combustion engine more. Now that doesn't mean that I can't recharge the car. You can recuperate the battery energy by putting it into sport mode. And sport mode clearly kind of makes it feel a little bit more sporty. It's not just a clever name, but it also puts that battery back into a charge state where you can use it. even if you don't do that, it still holds on to enough charge, although it won't let you run as pure EV like I'm doing now at 60 miles an hour down a national 60. What you'll still find is in creeping traffic and manoeuvring, you're still often running on the electric motor rather than the petrol engine. So, first confession, you need to plug it in more. So if you are thinking about a hybrid and you're not sure whether you're going to go plug-in hybrid, or I'm going to call it self-charging hybrid, I know the internet hates that term, but a hybrid where you don't have to charge it. Now, you also have to be a bit careful, that's not a mild hybrid. So mild hybrids are engines that just have a 48 volt system that typically does torque fill. It helps the engine at startup to be more efficient when it's at its thirstiest, but generally doesn't run a great deal on all EV. A self-charging hybrid will have a motor and a small battery and will allow you to run on electric running at slow speeds and so on. So if you are trying to work out whether you go hybrid or plug-in hybrid, my main thing to say would be a really simple one: the name, plug-in hybrid. If you're gonna buy a plug-in hybrid, you need to be plugging it in to get the best out of the car, and if you can't plug it in regularly, you're probably better off buying a self-charging hybrid, because it'd be running more efficiently more of the time, and also they're cheaper. Now, whilst you wouldn't necessarily buy this car for its sportiness, I do always want to have a bit of fun every now and again. So one of the things that surprised me a great deal, we'll get on to what it's like for a longer journey and how relaxing it is and so on, but when you get to a bit of twisties, and this is one of my favourite bits, the road that I have to take to get from my house out up onto kind of the A34 to go north, whether that's to Podium Place, like today I'm going up to meet the guys to record another episode of Drive Talk podcast, I always tend to come this way because I like the road. One thing I have got at the moment, I've got the lane departure assistance on. To turn that off, I just push that button and hold it, and then it's turned off, and that is much nicer. You don't get that interference. But I'm now in sport mode, and let's just have a look. Now, it's, as I said, it's not the most powerful car in the world. I also have to be a bit careful because I've got the dogs in the boot, so I don't want to throw it around too much, otherwise they'll be like stuck to the glass. But it's got a reasonable amount of oomph when you're in sport mode, when you want to pull out of corners. It's got a nice feeling through the steering. It's not got the best road manners in the world. As I've said, it's a small family hatch rather than a sports car, and this isn't a sport version of it. But it's a pleasant car to drive, and I think for me, you know, not every car I drive needs to be a bat out of hell, fast as you can down the road kind of car, because let's face it, most people who buy cars probably aren't after that really. They want a car that does what it needs to do, that has space, that has luggage room, that is comfortable, that is efficient and economic, that's good looking, that's reliable. Those are the main criteria that many people that aren't maybe as crazy and as petrol heady as me look after. And if that's what you're after, then the Niro delivers in spades. But if you want sportiness, I'll be honest, this is a car that probably won't satisfy you completely. But every now and again, if you want to chuck it down a B road, or if you want to make progress because you're running late for a meeting, the car will do it, and it will do it without complaining too much, and it doesn't ever feel underpowered. It never feels like it will struggle to do an overtake or to accelerate out of a corner. It's certainly not underpowered, it's just not out and out sporty, but then I didn't expect it to be. So the next thing I want to talk about is the thing I think that's impressed me the most about the first 1,000 miles of this car, but in order to do that, we need to get onto some dual carriageway and just have a chat about long distance driving, because that for me, let's accelerate away here now, look. I'm up to speed. Ride quality's nice. It's got a really nice buoyant ride, so it does kind of float over the road. It doesn't feel crashy and harsh. And when you are driving at pace, it just gives a nice, confident feeling to the drive. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, next thing we need to do is head to some dual carriageway and have a chat about long distance drives in the Niro Plug-in Hybrid. Now we're on a dual carriageway, and for me, this is where this car kind of comes into its own, really. It's got highway driver assist, which is adaptive cruise control. I've turned the lane departure assistance back on, and now in my job I do lots of miles and lots of journeys to the airport, to filming locations, and I need to have a car that is as less fatiguing as possible, and that's exactly what this car delivers. It's such a nice place to be when you're doing a long journey, and that's what I love about it. Yes, down a B road it's a bit of fun, but for me to do my job, it's really, really useful. In terms of efficiency, if I just look at the long-term trip, so as we speak, I've done 1,052 miles, and my long-term average MPG over that time is 51.1 MPG, which I think is really good, because I haven't done that much all EV running. If I had done a lot of all EV running, that number would be better. And I know you have to take into account how many kilowatt hours of battery power I'd used, but in terms of pure petrol running, I'm really happy with that. And to give you an idea, with the current prices of petrol in the UK, I can put around about 400 miles of range in this car for about £40. I filled it up at the weekend and literally went from pretty much empty to full. 400 miles or so of range, 40 quid. And that's really, really ticks a big box for me, for sure. In terms of, just as an example, this trip we're on now, where I've hardly got any battery at all, I'm averaging 48.8 miles to the gallon. So, you know, I think, you know, if you put the almost the hybrid system to one side, it's still a very efficient petrol engine. But you really want, you know, you'll see adverts for this car, and it may be quoting the MPG in the hundreds of miles per. That's just that. You know, if I drove to the shops and back and just used all electric, I'd used infinite miles to the gallon, right? So, as a balance, I think 50 or so miles to the gallon is what you're going to get, and that's really impressive. But super smooth, level 2 autonomous driving. I've got the car kind of, you know, it's got speed sign recognition. It will just do all the things I want it to do to look after me, to make doing a long journey as comfortable as possible. Seats, very, very comfortable. Not had a numb bum yet. Loads of luggage space. As I said, I've mentioned I've got luggage in the back seat because I've got the dogs in the boot. So yeah, all in all, very good car. Anyway, I'm gonna make my way to Podium Place. I just thought I'd give you a quick update. So far, so good. First 1,000 miles, happy days. I really like the car, and yeah, I'm enjoying driving it. But let me know what you think in the comments below. But if you enjoyed that one, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film. You take care, guys. Drive safe.